Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Goddesses of the Round Table. I'm here with four of the lovely goddesses. I'm here with Teresa,
Everybody.
June, and Haley.
Hello.
And I'm Yvonne Douglas. Sorry to Gail, Jackie, and Judy. They all can't make it today for different reasons, but they're here in spirit. So today we are going to be talking about a very interesting subject. Can men and women really be friends? Now, some people say, yes, of course. And yes, we can. However, there's been so many different, I don't know, circumstances around this particular topic that I think we could delve into and get some clarity around. I mean, when I look back on my male relationships, my friendships with men, they have been very, very interesting, very strange. And to be fair, I'm going to even say that I found it very difficult to be friends with men in the past. Oh my goodness. It just couldn't happen unless there was something sexual about it, I think. Yeah, it was I don't know if it was me or them, but I often felt that when I met men, just in general, there was only one kind of, what's the word? They
Goal.
yeah, it's like they wanted only one thing from me, and it just, yeah, and if that did happen, then the friendship, it would have spoiled the friendship, or it's just very complicated. I don't even know where to really start, but that's a starting point, I guess. Have any of you ladies had that experience?
Well, yeah, I had a friendship with this guy for years, and it's hard to not to go into fantasy about a relationship with this person. I never had a relationship with this person, and we would spend hours on the phone chatting about this and that and the other. And there was a few times where I thought to myself, could I be in a relationship with this? Or why are we not doing the thing? Do you know what I mean? There was part of me I never said anything to him about it, but I did question it.
Mm-hmm.
But then there were things that happened where I just thought, there were certain values that were just deal breakers for me. So it just never happened. The only male relationships that work for me, and I know you're probably going to laugh about this, are my gay male relationships.
Yeah, they're good.
I
good.
love. I mean, this particular friend that I've had. Hi, Gabriel, if you're watching. I've known this guy since I was in my early 20s, and some of the best jokes, some of the best times I've ever had in terms of fun, of when I've been out clubbing with him. I could just let my hair down. No one's gonna chirp me. No one's gonna do nothing. There's no complications. I just go out there, we bust down the tunes or whatever, and there's just no complications. Whenever it's with a straight guy, there's always, I suppose that's nature, isn't it? I suppose it's nature in that sense. Like there's always going to be some sort of spark between, if it's two heterosexual people, there's always going to be that question mark around. Nature starts going, oh, do you fancy them? But it's just not going to happen for me. So the only time I'll be friends with them is if maybe further down the line, I'm thinking something might happen. But it's never going to be, we're just going to be friends, and that's not happening.
Right. It's so I've got a few male friends now, which I feel that I'm firmly established in that relationship as a friendship, but it's taken me a long time to be able to be in that space with a male and just enjoy it for what it is, as a male friendship. And I actually I'm trying to take some ownership of my part in why maybe I struggled in the past, because for me, I know that the way I used to see men, it was always, see, this is very interesting. This is the first time I'm saying it, because I often said, oh, they only want one thing. They're only interested in one thing. And but there were, to be fair though, there were times when I would like to have just had a male friendship, but because they only wanted one thing, it was very difficult to keep the boundary in place. And if I kept that boundary in place, then they wouldn't want to pursue any kind of relationship, or they struggled to, if that makes sense.
Well, it's in relation to that last meme that I sent, isn't it? About, you know, your quote unquote friend shouldn't be the guy that's been pursuing you, kind of hanging around for some cake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's got to be, that's not really your friend. That's somebody that's waiting for an opportunity to have cake. That's not your friend,
they can't have cake. They can't have cake. They're not getting this cake.
There's no cake available, I'm afraid. Mr. Kipling is closed.
Oh my God, that is so true. I can really identify with that. I think I used to be in denial, actually. It's taken me a very long time to be able to get to the point where, like you said, Yvonne, where you can actually have platonic relationships with men. I think I was in denial. I'd like to kid myself and think, oh, we're just friends, he's just my friend. But blatantly, he was waiting for the cake. And actually, all I was doing was just being a bit of a DTs and just kind of stringing them along. Right. And I think there was kind of, I don't want to say fun in that, but, it feels good to be wanted. It feels good to be desired. And I also have a few gay friends, and they have, like, my best friend is gay, Freddie. Freddie, if you're watching, I love you. And it's always felt so safe to be with Freddie, because all these kind of men that want cake, lots of cake, leave me alone. And I don't know, as I've got older, I've got myself into quite a lot of trouble from this naivety of thinking I can just be friends with these men and they don't want anything. It's like, come on, girlfriend, like, get with the program. This guy blatantly fancies you. He wants to be with you. And I'm like, yeah, but I've kind of friend zoned him. No, he's still waiting for a chance. He's still living in hope that something is going to happen one day. So I don't know. I think it's a yes and no from me. I think as you get older and you mature and you learn to manage your sexual energy, things can change. Things absolutely can change, because I actually have a lot of male friends now, and it's absolutely platonic. I mean, maybe, initially when we first met, okay, there might have been a bit of attraction, but very quickly it got established that I'm really not interested in you in that way, or I've got a partner or whatever. And now I'm able to have these beautiful, sacred friendships with men. I'd say I've got like a handful, 4 or 5 men who, they're like my soul buddies, and they really respect me and I really respect them. And we get to have this really intimate and close relationship, this friendship, relationship, without all the kind of messiness of like what you get when you're in a real relationship with somebody, sexual relationship with somebody. So yeah, I think it is definitely possible, but it's definitely taken me many years to get to this point where, I'm able to manage my sexual energy in a way that I'm aware now of, if I'm really kind of spilling my sexual energy, and really kind of flowing it all out, everywhere. So I know how to kind of really rein it in. I know how to kind of not be too overly flirtatious and kind of, be leading men on, basically.
Do you know what? I think you mentioned you mentioned some really good points there, Hayley. I think when we do start to manage our sexual energy as we get older, it does become less complicated. And I think maybe when I was younger, my sexual energy was all over the place and I didn't even know what was going on. And I remember some of my friends saying, I used to say to them, do you think I flirt? And they were like, yeah. And I'm, no, and I'm, no, I don't. I'm just being friendly. Although sometimes I do feel that, because I'm a very friendly and sociable person, and I'm very much, yeah, I'm a girly girl and stuff. And I do think sometimes it can be mistaken as flirting, just because I'm being friendly. And something else you mentioned, when we first meet a guy, and you say there might be an attraction. Is it not the same as when you first meet a woman and there's an attraction, there's a chemistry?
Yes.
You feel they're your soul tribe. You feel connected.
Yes.
We don't fancy them, do we? We just feel that connect. So do we sometimes then get confused with that connection?
Yes.
Both us and the men thinking, oh, we must fancy each other because we feel really connected. Actually, no, it's probably just a soul mate and not a soulmate that you have to have a sexual relationship with. So I think in the past we've probably got so confused with that, and we've ended up maybe having a sexual relationship with them which hasn't really lasted because we weren't meant to. It was just meant to be a friendship because we recognize their soul.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's very, very true. Yeah, I think we're becoming more skilled at being able to just really honor. It's all my tantra training and my yoga that's really helped me get to this place, because now for men and women, I can be in awe and adore both men and women and just be like, wow, but there's, there isn't that kind of message in the head going, oh my God, what does this mean? And maybe there's something between us. No, there's nothing. It's just a pure honoring, like, wow, that woman is absolutely beautiful. She's gorgeous. I'm just in awe of her essence. And, and there is intimacy, but it's love. It's just, you're sharing this love. Like, I remember when I met Teresa that first day, I was just like, oh my God, I'm in freaking love with this woman. She is amazing, and there is that chemistry. So yeah, I think we definitely, guys and girls out there, we need to work on our sexual energy. We really need to work on it, because once we start to kind of really understand how to what's the word, not transcend from the lower chakras, like our animal instinct, we can really bring that energy more into the heart center, and you're much more just like, wow, I see you. So yeah, good point.
Teresa?
Yeah, I've had an interesting one. My longest standing relationship is with a gay man. Guido, if you're watching, I can't wait to see. We're gonna have so much fun. I've known him for about 20 years now, and he's my guy, right? But yeah, it's quite funny because, like, I think I mentioned this in the roundtable we had about sister relationships, and I remember saying then it's only been about 5 years where I've really been friends with women and had lots of women around me, because up until then I was pretty much one of the guys. I was one of the lads. I worked in journalism. I was surrounded by men at work. They were the ones that I kind of went out with after work, hanging in the pub or going to watch the football. And if I wanted to go out and dance, I would go out with the gay guys because it was safe and the music was better. Exactly, because that whole, like, walking into a club and feeling like you're in a meat market, like that whole thing just, I think I've done it 3 times in my life. It just repulsed me. I'm just like, no, I want to go and like dance on the pole and grind and have fun and like be carried home. That's my kind of night out, right? So, so I've always had men in my life, either like the football lads with the beer or the gay boys. But there was never anything sexual there. And I was like trying to think. I was like, yeah, I've actually even had relationships, 2 platonic relationships in my 30s when ecstasy was very popular and everybody was in love with each other. And I've slept naked with two men, and there was no sex involved. It was just to be cuddling each other and just loving that human. Yeah, I've done it. It was easy. So
I couldn't do that. I'd be busting up some right on there. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I'd do
folks.
that.
I'd be busting up some right on there.
Oh,
You
dear.
know, the other thing, as you were talking, the other thing that I thought was quite interesting is that the whole friendship conversation, it's going to sound like a complete contradiction now, but that is actually quite sexy. The friendship thing is actually quite sexy in the sense that sometimes the sexual chemistry can be a distraction.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, I wish you could just like put the sexual, just leave it there, leave it at the side for a minute. Now just let me just, I want to see who you are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if the sexual chemistry is put to one side, like if some man comes to me and is trying to chirp me or whatever and starts getting all, I'm not interested. Seriously, I'm not interested, because people can come up and tell me that I'm pretty and I'm a queen. People can tell me that. What, like, who are you? I want to know who you are. Show me who you are. Don't tell me I'm pretty. Tell me what book you're reading.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Tell me what book you're reading, what podcast you listen to. Are you in therapy? How are you dealing with trauma?
Are you dealing with your trauma?
Are you dealing with your trauma? Tell me what I want to know what are your values? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I don't want to know your inside leg. I want to know, or if you want cake, I want to know what you're reading. I want to know who you are. And for me, maybe it's an age thing. Like this, for me, the sexiness is who he is. I watched this beautiful documentary today, and I've never seen anything so beautiful in my whole life. I don't know if anyone's seen it's on OWN. It's called Black Love. It's just got one of the full episodes on it, and there was this black couple on there. I'm gonna try not to get emotional, but I have never seen a black man. He was just so open, and you could tell the brother was just he just worships their feet. He was so, and it wasn't about sex. You could just see the chemistry between them, that they loved each other. He adored her, and they were just such a beautiful couple. And they were basically talking about how they lost a child.
Oh, bless.
How they lost a child, and he was just sharing how he was just devoted to her. And you hear men and women talking about, oh, would you submit? I would submit to him if he was doing that. If he was, I would submit to that 100%. Do you know what I mean? But you could, they were friends.
They were friends. Yeah.
Is that you could just see that they were friends. And to me, that is the ultimate in sexiness. Not that they're gonna, but that in of itself, for me, that is real intimacy.
That's beautiful. And I think it is important to be a friend with any potential partner first, actually. And develop that intimacy, and then you can have the sexual intimacy after. I think that's the way to do it, It
makes the sex so much better.
Of course.
When you do it that way around, the sex is so much better when you do it that way. Because it's just, fireworks in the beginning, you've got nothing to build on. Because for me personally, if I know that person, if I know what they're about, if I know what their values are, if we vibe, if we laugh at the same thing, that's just going to make the sex even. It's just a compliment to what's already there for me. Anyway.
For sure.
Yeah.
So when you think about, because one of the questions that we posed in our meme was, if you're in a relationship with someone, could you have a male friendship outside of that? And, some people said, yes, of course. And I actually agree. Absolutely. Why not? Why can't you have a friendship outside of your relationship, your romantic relationship? But I know that some people can become quite jealous and not want their partner to have a relationship. And I'm going to hold my hand up and say, I've been quite jealous of that as well in the past. But when I look back on that, it's because they weren't respecting certain boundaries.
That's the thing.
See, if the boundaries are there and in place, then there's no problem with that. I'm not dictating to anyone, oh, you you can't be friends with this person or that person. No, that's none of my business. It's their life. They can choose which friend they want. However, if you are in a relationship and you have a friendship, and an other sex friendship outside of that, it's really important to have the right boundaries in place and have respect for your romantic relationship. For example, if you're with your partner at night, so for me now, from 10 o'clock onwards, maybe even earlier, I don't, unless it's an emergency, me personally feels that they shouldn't be on the phone with that person, especially when you're sitting, and especially if you don't know that person as well. To me, it crosses certain boundaries. And that's really important, I think, because you have to have that respect within your relationship and for your partner. What do you think?
What is the history of that so-called friend? If that person, they had a little fling, or if that person is one of those people hanging around for some cake, inappropriate. For me, that would be inappropriate. That's not friendship. That is somebody waiting for cake to see what happens with the relationship, so they can get someone they're finished. That's not. That would be a boundary.
But that's not a friendship.
No, it's not.
That's not a friendship.
What would you define it as, Teresa?
There's somebody hanging around. That's not friendship. That's just somebody hanging around for cake, waiting for drippings. That is not a friendship. And if quite frankly, if your dude is doing that, still has cake waiters hanging around, then he ain't worth being in a relationship with anyway.
For sure.
I was on the other side of that with my narcissistic ex-husband, and to me, because I lost a couple of very good close male friends because he didn't like me being out with them, even though he knew that I was going to come home to him, that it was completely platonic. He knew them, but he didn't like it. And to me, that just raises a red flag, because it's like, now I see that shows his insecurity and just
for sure
being a pig just because he didn't want me to have fun with somebody else who wasn't him. So I would see that as a red flag. If a potential partner went, oh yeah, no, you can't see your male friends, I'd be like, well, then you're not for me.
I had that experience as well years ago, narcissistic relationship, and was dictating not just male friendships but even female friendships, kind of trying to put me off the females, but I took my stand with that. And also I had when I first went into recovery, actually, my sponsor was male, and he was gay, and he was a lovely guy. And my partner at the time didn't like me having this male friend, because I'd gone through the steps with him and everything, and we stayed on as friends. And it got to the point where I ended the relationship with my friend, with my male sponsor, because my partner was really nasty about it. And I found out last week that this particular person passed last week.
Wow.
And it hit me. It really hit me. And so I regret giving up that friendship, actually, because he meant so much to me, and he did a lot for me in my early recovery, really helped me through. And it's funny because the person who referred me to him, he said he'll be a really good sponsor for you because he's like you in male form.
Oh.
So yeah, that was a good friendship, which I kind of gave up. But I do have one good male gay friend who I've known for nearly 20 years, I think. He's about 10 years younger than me, but we met up last week. We haven't seen each other since the beginning of lockdown, COVID season and stuff. And we were in the restaurant for so long, and we had such a laugh, big cackles, and it was just amazing. It was lovely. And I said to him, you're the one person, not that most people don't make me laugh, but I said, but the one person who I'm guaranteed to have a belly laugh with.
Same.
Oh.
Just amazing, just amazing. But yeah, so there's lots of different nuances, isn't there, with this topic and how we navigate ourselves so that we can have, I think it's important that we have males in our friendship group, in our circles, because that masculine energy is good to have, and it's good to kind of hear their perspective on things. Even sometimes when we're having problems with our romantic relationships, it would be good to go to a male friend and say, what do you think about this? And what get some advice from them, because as males they will probably know what's going on more than we do.
Yeah. I mean, even when we had the guy, I forget the guy's name now, that really nice brother that came on the show with us that time.
Oh, we've had two, haven't we? We've had Michael, we've had Nigel.
Not Nigel.
And we've had Amari, the Divine Masculine guy.
Yes, that was a really, really, and part of the reason why I think that particular show was so good was because it was just good to hear a black man talking about certain things. Absolutely. That maybe we wouldn't have had. It's just a different perspective. So I hear that, and I think it is really, really important. It is really important, but I think it's just understanding where your boundaries are, isn't it? Because everybody's boundaries around that, the friendship stuff is going to be different. And so, yeah, I think you've just got to really know yourself. You've really got to understand what feels right for you and not what other people say is right for you. Because like you said, Yvonne, there were things within your old relationship that you did that you realize now maybe you wouldn't have made those choices now. So I think it's about, it's about us anchoring for ourselves what we feel is right in that particular relationship, and talking it out with maybe people that are not necessarily the partner, because sometimes the partner might want something and try and convince you that, oh, you shouldn't be talking to this person or that person, and so you end up doing what the partner wants because you don't want to upset whatever's going on in the relationship. You're still not really sure whether actually that feels right for you. So it is about you understanding your own boundaries and boundaries in relationships are hard enough anyway, without having to think about a third person, having to navigate, a third person and what that looks like. Because I don't know how I would feel about it. Yeah, I think it just depends on and they're all going to be so different. Again, it depends on the history, depends on the person, depends on your relationship with the partner. There's so many different layers to it. I actually don't think it's a blanket conversation, even though, generally for me, it's going to be, I don't think they can be, but I think it, ultimately is going to be different for different people, has different set of circumstances.
Definitely.
Because there's so much value in having honest conversations with male energy, like you said. So I think they're really important. So how do you do it without the complications of all the sexual? But again, I suppose it's not a complication. It's what it is. Okay, so I've just got it. It's being able to observe it without acting on it. That's what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Observing your sexual energy, going, oh, that's interesting, and being curious about it. Why am I getting fanny flutters about this guy? Do you know what I mean? Is it what is it? Yeah. You actually act on it. So I think that's maybe what you're saying, Hayley, isn't it? It's just honoring it as a part of being human, being attracted to somebody, but not necessarily looking for the next.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's so true. We don't have.
So it's knowledge of self. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It really is knowledge of self.
I think having a gay male friend definitely helps you find that knowledge of self.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because your gay male friend will see you before you see yourself. And that is key for you to finding yourself and finding your boundaries. And they're going to call you out when you need calling out. And they're going to love you when they see you need to be loved. Big time. I think having a gay male friend would be a good practice run for those women who haven't quite yet made it to having platonic relationships with men yet.
And does any of you have a male friend now where there is some history?
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do as well.
And actually, we've been able to navigate getting over that initial kind of, you know, we had something and then you know, it didn't kind of work out. And now we're just really, we're grounded in ourselves. There isn't that kind of desperation to kind of, I don't need anything from him, he doesn't need anything from me, but he really honors me as the woman that I am. And likewise, he's such a good person. We have such great conversations, really deep and meaningful. So yeah, we've been able to kind of just rein it in and just be like, look, this is the situation, you know, you're there, I'm here, and that's okay. I'd rather have you as a friend. I'd rather keep this friendship than you know, not having it at all. Yeah, so it is possible. I think it's an attitude. It's an attitude, and it is about maturity, I think.
Yes.
I mean, it's not always, of course, it's not always, that's not always the case. Sometimes, like June said, there's so many different scenarios. It isn't a black and white thing, is it? It's so multi-layered.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes we meet people, for example, I have a friend, a very good friend in the States, and she has met, honestly, the man of her dreams. This guy's married, usual story, married with kids. Now, he is not in love with his wife. It's so clear as day, but he is not going to leave his family unit because of the children. But the connection that they have is just, it's kind of almost godly like. And I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe he will leave the family unit, but I don't know. But you know, so in that scenario, it's kind of like they're really going to have to go their separate ways, because she needs to kind of get on with her life and find a partner that she can have, you know, that's available. And he will just have to make the choice that, you know, he's kind of made his bed, and he needs, you know, he's got these kids and he's made his choices, and maybe that's what he needs to do for however long, until maybe the kids are a bit older. I don't know, but it's just, I think in that case, yeah, it won't be possible for them to stay friends. So it's a hard one, isn't it? It's
hard.
human, it's the heart, it's, you know, we can logicize and kind of try and work all this out with our minds, but it's just, it doesn't always make sense. It really doesn't. You know, there aren't any rights and wrongs, because, you know, the heart is the heart at the end of the day. And you know, we F up. You know, we do. And it's okay. It's absolutely okay. And sometimes I feel the universe just puts people in your, you know, on your path to kind of help wake you up, and really kind of ask yourself some deep questions about perhaps the partner that you are with, and maybe you're not meant to be with them, and you know, it can be enough of a trigger to kind of leave that current relationship and get onto another path. And so all sorts of things happen. But I think what June said, like what you've all said, really, we just have to really listen. And you know, the attraction, sometimes that powerful sexual chemistry and everything can be a really good wake-up call. It can be a real good indicator. It's like, damn, what am I doing in this current relationship? Because I'm not happy. Whenever I meet this other person, my friend, I light up, my energy gets back online, we can talk till the cows can come home, and I just can't do that with my current partner. So I mean, I know I'm going a bit off piste here, but you know, it's kind of, there's so many different transitions. And I don't know, we're growing, and I think we just have to kind of test it all out.
Yeah, it's what you're describing there sounds very much like, when you say it's like a godly connection that she has with this man, it sounds like that could very well be her twin flame. And I know that the twin flame stuff is something that we can talk about another time. Actually, I don't know if I want to talk about it, but anyhow, it's just, but it's again, it's one of those relationships that comes with lots of complications and lots of awakening, and you know, things like that. And it's, yeah, really knowing who we are. And I don't know, just, I guess we have to all live in our truth, don't we? Regardless of what friendships we have, and honor ourselves and our truth and honor our friends.
I really agree with that, because I think, you know, if you're in a really sound relationship and each individual is secure enough within themselves, I mean, let's be honest, there shouldn't really be any real reason why it's not okay to have, you know, I'm not talking about like seeing a different guy every night. I mean, you know, with reason, you know, common sense, but there shouldn't really be a reason for you know, for you not to be able to have these male friends.
Absolutely.
Is it possible that you can get everything from one partner? For me, no. And I'm choosing not to live a life where I've got to limit myself so much to make somebody else happy. No, that's not for me. Might be for some women, but it's definitely not for me. And I'm really clear about that.
Absolutely.
I mean, when I'm out with my partner, I am absolutely respectful. I really do my best to make them feel comfortable and secure, and you know, my attention's very much on them, but I'm not going to kind of ignore everybody else just because I'm glued to my partner. I mean, how weird's that for me? It's just not my thing. So but you know, if there are cracks in your relationship and your relationship is not really built on kind of firm foundations, and perhaps maybe one partner's deeply insecure, then that it's that you got to look at. You got to look at that. I think
it's the insecurity. It's the insecurity that will cause a partner to not want them to have friends of the opposite sex. It's the insecurity, and we all have to be working on our insecurities, because they will trigger so much in you and in your relationship.
This is why having self-awareness and doing your own inner work is so important, because if you do have abandonment issues, if you do have if you have painful relationships with caregivers and stuff like that, if you haven't healed that stuff, or if you're not aware of it, it will show up in the relationship as jealousy, insecurity. It's going to show up as all of those things. And so self-awareness doesn't necessarily mean that stuff is not going to be difficult to navigate, but it means that you're in a position to be able to observe it, as opposed to acting out in it, if you know what I mean, and making it about the other person rather than what it's stirring up inside you. That's why the self-awareness thing is so important. And just getting back to what you were saying about the twin flame thing, it's interesting because you were talking about twin flame. My first thought was, it's an addiction. It's an addictive relationship, in the sense that, you know, she's chosen somebody that's unavailable because she's used to being with unavailable men. So it might feel like, oh my God, he's the best thing since sliced bread. Maybe he reminds her of somebody in her childhood or whatever, that she adored, that was never really available. So she's just repeated that pattern. Do you see what I mean? So she may not be really in love with him. She might be addicted to the fact that he's unavailable, and that's what's getting her juices going. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know, if she was washing his socks every day, would she still feel the same?
And it's so true. That's another aspect that it could well be.
This is why self-awareness is so important.
You're absolutely right, because this particular person, she had a very bad relationship with her father. So you've knocked the nail on the head. That's exactly. And the previous relationship that she's just been in, he kind of really wasn't emotionally available. So 100% addicted to what feels familiar, and what has felt familiar her whole life is
emotionally unavailable men.
Loving someone that's not available, because her dad was unavailable. If you're not doing your own work,
then you're
going to keep choosing men that are unavailable. That's all you know.
That's what feels comfortable, right? That's what feels comfortable, and you're trying to fix that wound, that father-daughter wound, and being in a relationship like that is not going to fix it. Doing the inner work, the shadow work, that is what's going to
grief fix it. Work, cussing her dad,
and then you can, and then once you fix that wound, and it takes a lot of fixing, then you will start to attract emotionally available men.
Well, I didn't mean literally cussing her dad. I mean in therapy, cussing her dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just people out there that might be watching thinking, I want to go and throw my dad and cuss him. No, that's not what I'm talking about. It means grieving it in a safe way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so interesting because The mind's job is to keep us safe, and it will do everything and anything to keep us safe.
Yeah.
So we will always move towards what's familiar. So when we're trying to make change, it's about going in the opposite direction. And that's why change can be difficult, because it feels so unfamiliar. It's like, oh, this doesn't feel good. So we naturally our natural inclination is to kind of go, oh yeah, I'm just going to go back here where it's kind of warm and cozy and easy. Yeah.
Exactly. I call it the uncomfortable comfort zone.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's so unconscious.
Exactly.
Well, a lot of the times it's so unconscious so that you don't, even though she's doing it, she don't know she's doing it.
Yes.
She's doing it. Exactly.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, it just comes down to self-awareness and having a support network, a therapist, recovery program, whatever it is that can call you out on that shit. Basically, excuse my language, but the more you talk about it and the more you explore your own not what they did to you, but what happened to you.
What happened?
And what were your survival behaviors that happened as a result of that event? You know, the more you explore that, the more you're going to understand why you're choosing the people that you've been in, not to victim blame, but it's just an exploration of how the patterns have manifested.
Absolutely. It's so fascinating to look at what attracts us. The actual act of attraction, and just it blows my mind. It really does, because every single time you're like, wow. I mean, even though a lot of my partners have looked different, they've really, there's been a whole kind of range of spectrum, but when I really look at each one, I'm like, oh my God, the pattern, you know, it's just so obvious. You know, and I've had to really look at that, because in my earlier days, I was very much playing out the daddy figure. So just looking for men that I had relationships with older men. And it was the same. It was like, whoa, wow, yeah, okay, they're looking different, but the pattern's still there. Yeah.
This is a good thing about friendships. It's a really good thing about friendships with men, actually, because like I was saying before, without the kind of sexual component, you can then get to see, you know, am I playing out this pattern again? If you're in friendship with them and you're having conversations and you're talking to them and you're figuring out who they are and just observing your response to that person without acting out on it, you have an opportunity to really observe if you are actually attracted to this person, or whether you're just playing out another pattern, another dysfunctional pattern that you still haven't, you know, you're still in denial about. Do you know what I mean? So friendship, I think, is so powerful for that. Before you actually decide if you're going to do anything else, you know?
So true. So true. I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but it's so amazing when you can have these close friendships with men, because like you just said, you know, you get to kind of really see in real time like what's going on. But what I've also found as well is that I've been able to have these deeply intimate relationships, like I mean, I'm repeating myself, but without all the messiness that you get. So it's really good to have these close male, you know, friendships. It really is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I have one friend in Thailand, and oh my God, I mean, I love him like a brother, you know, like, but you know, it's just fantastic, because it just, you cut out all the that you get. It's like, why can't my real relationship, my sexual relationship, have all of this? But that's not the way it goes, you know.
No. And you know what, you know, you made a point there earlier about you're not necessarily going to be able to get everything that you want from a man in your romantic partner. And you know, the way the world is going now, you know, there's been a lot of talk around, I know this is a bit off topic, around polygamy and stuff like that, but it's not about that. It's about, you know, because I think it's good to have a man, maybe that, okay, how do I put this? So you have your romantic partner where you have intimacy, you have your sexual needs met, etc. Your life partner, but then you may have a male friend who's, I don't know, who may have a quality that you really need that your partner may not have, but you can get that from your male friend, but it doesn't mean the boundaries get blurred. You still have that boundary in place, especially when it comes to the sexual energy relationship, the sexual relationship boundary. I think so. We can have these different friends that feed us in a different way. What do you think?
I don't know. Do you know what it is? I was just thinking about. I know so many Black women that are like starved of real intimacy for different reasons, whether it's trauma, isolation, single parent, whatever it is, that are starved of it, that it's difficult to navigate those things because I think there's so many of us that are starved of it that they end up not being able to do what you've just said because they just, do you know what I mean? It doesn't always work out like that. I hear what you're saying, and I think that I think it's unrealistic to think you're going to get all your needs met from one partner anyway.
Yeah,
that's a given.
Yeah,
you know, because they're human, we're human, and I don't think it's not fair on that person either. But at the same time, you know, there is that danger that there's just going to be acting out all over the place, or the boundaries that, you know what I mean? Unless you, again, it comes back to self-awareness and are you doing your work? Because I know this whole conversation around polyamory, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Out. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just thinking, do you even really know what that word means? It means you being able to take care of, my understanding of it is, you are able to take care of multiple women. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
And that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing they just bust one on that one, bust a nut on somebody else.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, when I'm in a polyamorous relationship, really?
And, you know, I know exactly. You know, and I think, you know, it's so important to, because the sexual energy is very sacred.
Yes.
And I to be spilling it in different places, to me, it's not a healthy practice. It's not a healthy practice. In my humble opinion, it's not a healthy practice. So these people that practice that, I'm not sure. I'm you know.
It's kind of, it's being, my concern is that sometimes it feels like it's being cloaked in the polyamorous conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not really, because that's just it's just an excuse for them to behave that way. Like, when they say that, I say, well, is it okay for the woman to do it then?
Exactly.
Then the conversation shifts then, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then they will say, oh, but the woman is the one that receives the energy, and it, you know, blah blah blah, and she's got all this different energy inside her, which is true, but that's not, to me, that's not a good enough excuse or reason. Teresa, was you going to say something?
I was just going to say, back in the day, they used to call them swingers.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is. It's like real talk. Just name it, call a spade a spade. It's swing.
Exactly. Like polyamory, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the Hotep version of swingers. That's what that is.
You know we're going to get a lot of backlash from this video, don't you?
I know.
We don't care.
Oh dear. Well, we'll see what happens. But, you know, take what you like and leave the rest.
Exactly. And you know what, as well, though, I feel, you know, we mustn't forget that we're all here to experience our world in whichever way our soul wants it to. So for some people it's fine, but for some of us it's not, and we can't judge. You know, everyone's got a different experience that they've come to experience.
Know what's right.
That what works for whoever, isn't it?
Yeah. Know thyself.
That's it. Know thyself. Know what it is that you've come here to experience and to learn from and to grow from, to heal from. Sometimes we've got to remember karma as well, karmic debt that comes with us in our past lives and that we may take into the next life. So these are the things that we have to also remember.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's
Journey.
It is. It is.
Journey.
So, male friends, we love you. And let's just, keep the lines of communication open, the heart open, keep our sexual energies in check. And let's, just embrace having platonic friendships. Because I think especially now as we're all growing and we're moving more into our heart spaces, I think it's going to be necessary to have male friendships, and it's necessary for men to have female friendships as well, and create our communities, grow our communities, and just live in peace and oneness.
This is one of the good things about 2020, actually, about the pandemic. Okay, as evil as the pandemic is, all that nonsense has been going on. One of the good things about it, in terms of dating, friendships, or whatever, is that we have to talk more because we can't actually see each other in person. So that for me is something that I think is a good thing in many respects, in terms of the dating conversation, in terms of relationships, because people are getting on the phone more, FaceTiming, whatever, and you have to actually get to know that person, who they are, as well as yourself.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a really positive thing.
It is.
Maybe that's the boundary, what you can say. You can have a friend, but only on Zoom.
My Zoom friend.
Oh
God.
Brilliant.
You can have a Zoom spa.
Zoom friend. Oh dear. Oh no, I just had a song in my head. I'm not even going to say it.
What is it?
No. No, I'm not going to say it. I'll say it offline. Okay. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion. A bit of a fairly light-hearted one today, and lots of laughter, which is nice. And I hope you've got some tips and gems from it. And stay tuned for the Goddesses of the Round Table. We're going to be taking a break for a month over the holiday season, so we will be back in January. So be safe, take care of each other, live in love and light and harmony. Blessings to you all. You've been watching Yvonne J. Douglas, Teresa Fowler, June Allen, and Hayley Cutler. Good night all. Love and light.